January 9th, I was in Washington, D.C., a cold, sunny, and windy day, and day after a major snowstorm had passed through Washington after several years. It was deeply inside me to go and watch our beloved President Jimmy Carter's funeral services. But it was not the temperature that kept me inside, but the high security, the motorcade running through Washington, D.C., and eventually coming to the National Cathedral, which I have seen a few times, one of the best places in America for a great president to get his final rites and eulogies and remembrance. Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, was a peanut farmer and would go on to become the president of the greatest nation on this planet. His presidency did not come easy. Within days and weeks after he attained office, he had to face one of the largest crises America had faced, and that was a fall of a regime in Iran that led to capture of American hostages for well over a year, actually 444 days to be precise. That literally brought his presidency to a standstill. He still believed what he was doing was the right thing, often going against his own party members. But as history would unfold, the greatest achievement for President Jimmy Carter came after his presidency. In fact, he will be remembered as the most consequential ex-president. He did for his country what many presidents had not done. He lived up to 100 years, longest living president in America. But that's not his greatest accomplishment. His greatest accomplishment post-presidency came in bettering the world. He believed in peace without weapons. He was the first president to make human rights a foreign policy. He brought Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin, two rivals, together that eventually won him the Nobel Peace Prize. But he never set up any goals in his life. He won the hearts of Democrats and Republicans in a country that often is divided between parties. I saw at the funeral more unity that tells us America at the end of the day truly believes in their nation first. There are divisions. You saw presidents from both parties sitting together at the National Cathedral. Honesty and truth were the driving force behind him. But he was a devout Christian. Faith drove him and anything he did. But he believed in other religions. He was the first president to light up a menorah on Hanukkah. He believed in other religions and other castes. He believed in different regimes, but he decided that peace can be brought without weapons. He was the president that established Holocaust Museum. He tripled the number of immigrants from Russia, the Russian Jews. So clearly his faith went across many religions and many boundaries. Mr. Carter was a man who strongly believed that people who are the left out, this streamlined people, poverty, people who had a lot of dignity, he always fought for them. And that's one reason most of his work happened in poorest of the poorest countries, especially Africa. He was a fighter. And clearly, we saw that when he was diagnosed with one of the deadliest cancers one could get. As a cancer doctor who has seen thousands of patients, we know the three of the deadliest cancers a human being can get are glioblastoma multiforme that Mr. McCain and Ted Kennedy lost their lives to, pancreatic cancer that ran in Mr. Carter's family. His family, his close family members, were an example of what cancer can do. Both his parents died of cancer, all of his siblings died of cancer quite early. And Mr. Carter himself was diagnosed with another deadly cancer, a melanoma, that at diagnosis had already gone to the liver and brain. By all calculation, his survival was in weeks, maybe months. We all know in oncology, once you have brain metastasis, the survival is generally 6 to 9 months. With liver metastasis or spread, one could get few more months. He had both. And that was in 2015. People claim that the immunotherapy added years to his life. I don't deny that at all. But 10 years of survival after such deadly cancer, there has to be something deeper. And I truly believe faith, a inner instinct to fight and believing in yourself, is something that most medical community will discount. But I have seen my share of patients who believed in faith and beat all odds, not in just survival, but also minimizing morbidity and mortality, as we saw in Mr. Carter's case. President Carter, I should say. He has many things to claim as the first president who did something. Mr. Carter wrote more books than any president. And in fact, one of the books he wrote was Keeping Faith. He was the first president to allocate more land for environment. He believed in environment well before people even coined the word climate change. He installed solar panels on the White House, and he donated or gave 80 million acres to national parks that was started by Teddy Roosevelt. There are many firsts he has to his credit, and they're too numerous to name. But even as simple as taking care of the health of the poorest people. One example his grandson gave was a disease, a debilitating disease caused by guinea worm that was diagnosed and took the lives of almost 3 million people. Not necessarily lives, but debilitating disease was brought down to single digits, not by medicine, by improving sanitation in these poor countries. Mr. Carter, President Carter, did have a dry sense of humor. When someone asked him, "Do you enjoy writing books?" he said, "Better than picking cotton, I guess." He was a family man who was married for 77 years, blessed with many children and grandchildren, and he always believed in a simple life. He was a good cook. Yes, he ate fried food and dessert, but obviously he went on to live up to 100 years because all the support and love he got from not just his family, even his people in public service, people who were on the other side of the aisle. He won the hearts and love of so many Americans and people around the world. So I truly believe that in the annals of presidential or political history, he will be remembered as one of the greatest presidents. So God bless President Jimmy Carter and his soul, and let his family and the rest of the world wish him, his soul, to rest in peace.